So this section, the whole thing is called the Tiratnavandana, which is Ratna is jewel, Tiratna, the three jewels, and Vandana, praise of the three jewels. And we do that every morning. Lovely way to start the day, you know? Good. Gets everybody in a meditation mood. And I said this last week, yeah? You can burn incense, you can have a shrine, have flowers, have a special time. The Tiratnavandana is another way of really getting your meditation rolling, yeah? So there we go. So, but this week is like the Dhammavandana, praise of the Dharma. And the Dharma has got a number of meanings. It's got quite a number of meanings, yeah? But let's just pick out a few of them. It can mean like the little constituent parts of something, the dhammas, like the atoms of something. That's one meaning, okay? It can mean a truth. Everything is impermanent. That is a truth, okay? It can mean a teaching. And there's many others, and the Hindus have their own meanings for the word dharma, which we don't agree with, but let that be. But these last two are the important ones. The dharma can mean the truth, and it can mean teachings of the Buddha. So, yes, the Buddha expressed his experience. He saw the ultimate reality of things, and his expression of that is what we call the dharma, the truth. So let's go through this, the text. Swagato Bhagavata Dhammo. Right, Bhagavata, we met this word last week, yeah? Bhaga, meaning fortunate, it can mean blessed, right? So, you know, Bhagavata, the Buddha is the blessed one. And this title has been borrowed a lot in India today. When you meet some Swami, he's usually a Bhagwan or a Bhagavata. And we have heard of Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, some of us, yeah? Or he's been renamed Osho before he died, yeah? Yeah, it's the title they take for a guru. It means, yeah, blessed one, fortunate one. You know, Bhaga really means lucky. You know, that's how it starts off, the lucky one. But we take it to mean blessed, okay? Bhagavata Dhammo. So, the Dharma of the Blessed One. Great. And Sangharakshita was very keen to point out that it is the Buddha's teaching. What we get came from the Buddha's insight. It's not a mishmash. It's not been picked from various bits. I remember some student at Southampton giving me a book on the truth. And he said, would you read this? I think it's good. And I was reading it. I was going, oh, look, there's a bit of Tai Chi there. There's always a bit of Buddhism here and a bit of Hindu. It was a mess, you know. This is the enlightened one's experience, okay? There's no bits added, right? It says swakato, and that means well uttered, well expressed, or even well communicated. And last week we had a look at the Buddha being a teacher, and I said something about the qualities of a teacher. Yeah? And it is important. I mean, it's not a great lot of use to the world if you get enlightened and you can't tell anybody about it because you're incompetent, you know. You do need some sort of ability to communicate. And being rather naughtily critical here, I remember years ago watching Krishnamurti on television, yeah? And I was watching it with a friend, Padmaraja, and I went, nobody will understand him, you know. You could see he'd had meditation experience, but what he said was so confusing. And of course the BBC journalist didn't help at all, you know. But it didn't work. Sorry. And I met his disciples in our restaurant. They said, we don't know what he said. Anyway, all right. But there we go. Good old Krishnamurti. Dead now. So, and the Buddha, yes, he was good at communicating. And what's interesting, he kept polishing it over his lifetime. So at the very beginning, you get these simple statements of the truth. The Buddha knows how things come into being, That's the original teaching. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, fantastic, you got it. You don't need any more than that, yeah? And there's a couple of disciples who actually, when they hear that, bang, they're on the spiritual path. Not me. So then the Buddha, he decided to help us all a little bit along the way by later on coming up with the Eightfold Path. So, and I love to call this Buddhism for dummies, you know. You don't have to be a genius. You've got the Eightfold Path. You just follow all the bits and things should happen. Your sensitivity should grow. Your merit should grow. You know, all these wonderful, your dhyanas, your superconscious states should come into being. Yeah? And it's the Eightfold Path. Very nice. So that's it. He helped even those who are a bit slower. Fantastic. Thank you, Buddha. Then, getting towards the end of his life, he thought, I'd better tidy it up a bit. So he got that down to the threefold path. Very tidy. It's the same path. But he got it down to three categories, you know. He took all the ethics bits, stuck them together. He took the meditation bits, stuck them together. And the wisdom bits, stuck them together. And you get the threefold path. Great. It's a bit like a box of chocolates. You know, how you decide to sort it out is up to you. Hard centres, soft centres, ones with nuts. You know, ones with fruit. It's still a box of chocolates, you know. So there we go. Great, the path's the path. And then, as the Buddha lay dying, well, we say his body was dying, I suppose. He goes on to parinirvana, whatever that is. He gets his teaching down to 2 sentences. Wow. You interested or not? I mean, I built it up, haven't I, rather? It's so lovely. I just changed the word slightly to make it a little bit better for us, and the hands. He says, all composite things, or everything that comes together, comes apart. With mindfulness, strive. That's the whole of the Dharma. In just those, that which comes together will come apart, strive. So, it's quite interesting. I'll come back to this a little bit later. You've got the insight, you know, that's what life does, and then the practice, yeah? And then the practice. How do we get to see this? With mindfulness, strive. That's the practice. So with mindfulness you strive, and hopefully you begin to see that everything is made up. Everything is coming together and falling apart all the time. Some schools say the transcendental doesn't do that and space doesn't do that, but I'm not sure. You know, modern physics might have a word to say about space. We don't know, okay? But that's so. All right, move on. Right. Sanditiko, that translates as with immediate fruit. This word fruit comes up quite a lot in Buddhism. You know, the fruits of your actions. Yeah, is quite nice. Yeah, you make your efforts and then the fruits arrive. Karma, your actions. Karma vipaka, the fruits of actions. Okay, but let that be. But Sangharakshita says, there's another translation for Sanditiko, which is seen at once. You see it immediately. And this really can happen, you know. The truth is said to you and you go, yeah. I remember when I came to Buddhism, it was all like, everything Sangharakshita said, I just went, well, yeah. And you couldn't, before I met Buddhism, I knew nothing, so it seemed. And then as I heard it all, everything I heard, I went, well, yeah, I know that. Which is a really odd thing to happen, but it was all so familiar and sensible, you know. But I like this, seen at once, immediate, yeah. And it can be so even with the practices. That's the insights, but the practices, they're supposed to be immediate. So you do your metta bhavana, and immediately it shall work. That wasn't my experience. I remember my first metta bhavana. You know, I'm 23 years old. We all were in this shrine room in South London, Purley, and we all do the metta bhavana. At the end of the sit, I looked around and I thought, well, that didn't work. You know, nobody looked particularly happy, yeah? But then going home on the bus, and it was only about 3 kilometres, I started talking to the people on the left, and, total strangers, and then I introduced them to the people on the right, total strangers. I introduced everybody to each other, and then I jumped off. It was my stop, leaving them all looking at each other. I thought, what was that, you know? So the results were half an hour later, or an hour later, yeah? But also, I think today we are so busy. We are so busy. Do we actually see the results? Can we see the results? And we've got so many mind-dulling drugs. I've got a good strong coffee here. That blunts my experience, you know. There's good old cigarettes. That is a real dampener. You know, you want to get rid of feelings. Smoke cigarettes. It's fantastic, you know. Yeah. I took up smoking once in a crisis about 30 years ago, and I did this visualization of a bodhisattva every day. And this bodhisattva, this Buddha figure, would be sitting on this white lotus. And one day I noticed that the white lotus had nicotine stains on all the tips. I gave up. Good. Yeah. So there we go. Yes, but we got so, and to be just so busy, we dull our experience. So maybe when we do meditate, we might not notice for a while. But then hopefully there's other ways. Your friends might notice. Say, yeah, you're a bit different. What you doing, you know? And I remember one fellow, he came to one class, and the next week he said, I went to buy something in the canteen, you know, where they serve all the lunches. He said, and all the dinner ladies were smiling at me. And he knew it was the Metta-Vardhana, you know. So you just don't know. You really don't know. So you can get these sort of immediate responses, Sanditiko, yeah? And the good thing about that is, and Sangharakshita says that, is if you get pretty fast feedback, yeah, and it's your experience, you don't need faith, not that blind faith. Yeah? You don't need to hear a story and think, oh, okay, you know. If I give to the poor and do all this, I'll go to heaven. You know, maybe. This you get the results. You don't need faith, and that's all right. Okay. All right. A little tip on your meditation. I want to say this next week as well. It can also be good to just keep a diary if you're really serious about it. I mean, I don't keep a diary. I'm sorry. I'm such a hypocrite, yeah? But but you can just keep a meditation diary just by your cushion. And then, if it's really good, I've got one here. You want one of these, somewhere I've lost it. You want one of these French Bic pens with the multicolored, you know. And if it's a really good meditation, write it down in red. Yeah? Just that. And anyway, come back months later, you'll be looking through it, you just thumb through your book, and that was really good, I had no idea. Oh, look at all the red, look at all the red ink, red, you know. And somehow you're like a second person looking at your experience, and it's easy to miss how good it is. Easy to miss how good it is. And sometimes we can be in quite exalted mental states and not know it, because they're subtle. And what we're doing as meditators is we are becoming subtler and subtler. Now, normally the way we get pleasure is by going for bigger and bigger bangs, you know? We go on a crazy holiday, maybe white water rafting or bungee jumping or something, just bigger and bigger. How can I get the adrenaline higher and higher, you know? And that's quite normal, you know, to go for more and more exciting things, canoe rides, you know, so whatever. Shoplifting, some people do that. All right, I don't recommend that. Sorry, that was a joke. But Buddhism, we're going in the opposite direction. We're making our sensibility finer and finer and finer. And I remember once going to work one morning and just looking out of the van window at the front and just seeing this fine green line of sky along the horizon. And it was gorgeous. It was so lovely. There was all the usual blues and pinks, but this green. And there was a little bit of ecstasy there. And that's where we're going with meditation. We're becoming finer and finer, yeah? You know, and one day you might be on a retreat And they say, what you doing? And you go, I said, drop of water on this leaf and I can see rainbows in it. And you can, yes? So that's more the direction. And so this is how, we can go into meditation looking for a firework display and be disappointed. But it was amazing, but we didn't notice. Yeah? And funny enough, the diary will help you. Sometimes you'll write down, what happened when I was concentrated and this, that, and the other. And then months later you read it again and say, oh, that was really very good, but I didn't know it at the time. Yeah? Something else, so I'm just going into meditation a little bit here. Something else that's a traditional teaching is that when you first come to meditation, it can be really, really good. Your first couple of sits, fantastic, really high superconscious states. Can't believe it, can't believe it. A few months later, it's all gone. Boring, Dhammavandana, yeah. And the first thing's it's called traditionally the beginner's mind, because you're a total beginner, you're totally fresh, you don't know what's coming, you've got no expectations, yeah? And it can be amazing because you're so new, Now, Sangha actually says you can try and kid yourself into it again and again. Just try and make it new each time you come to the shrine room. Hey man, wake up, this is the first time ever. You can do that. My thing, which I've done for years, is to go to beginners classes. And I sort of scrounge your beginner's mind off you, yeah? You come with all your freshness, and I'm a little bit sensitive to it, and I get a really good meditation. My theory now is that meditation teachers should go to learn. Yeah, maybe we should pay. I don't know, But but very often the beginners classes has a freshness and if you're just sensitive, you can be lifted up in your own meditation by that. Yeah. So back to the text. Akaliko. The Dharma is akaliko. That means literally timeless, out of time. The Dharma is out of time. When you experience the Dharma, it is so fresh. It's totally fresh. And I remember being on a solitary retreat once, and I went down to the lake, and I saw this huge red sun just coming down to the water, this fantastic red sun. And I thought, it's a new sun. It's so new. It's crazy. It was brand new, this sun. It was, of course, my consciousness, but the experience was like everything was brand new. It reminded me of the huge Coca-Cola advert at Piccadilly Circus. They got this great big red Coca-Cola sign flashing with lights, And I'm looking at a Coca-Cola sign sinking down into the lake. Lovely. But it was new. Totally, isn't that amazing? And this is what the Dharma does, yeah? Bhante adds a word here. He says sometimes the Dharma is called samatama or eternal. It's eternal. The word's not in the text, but he says the Dharma is eternal. There are rules which never change, yeah? One of them, he gives the example of hatred never ceases through hatred, We say two wrongs don't make a right, Why did you get so upset with him? Well, he did this to me. He said, well, you're not going to help anything by getting angry back. It doesn't really work. And the Buddha is saying this, it works in every time, every other universes. It's the same law, yeah? So there's this feeling of eternal law. You do get some little local changes, little details. Like when you come to the West, and you find all these people have had 2,000 years of Christianity, where we've been flagellating ourselves across Europe and saying, I remember we did it in Latin as children. Mea culpa, mea maximum culpa. All these little 5-year-olds saying, it's my fault, it's really my fault. Saying what a load of rubbish we were, I know it all in Latin. Domini non dignus ad interdectum mem sit tanglum. Lord, don't come into my house, it's so unworthy. And we did this in Latin, then we learnt it in English. We said we were rubbish every week of our lives. Yeah? And Buddhism comes along, and it's a little bit tough for us, you know, a little bit tough for us. And so Sangharakshana really recommends the Metta Bhavana. And I personally just did the Metta Bhavana for the first 2 years. I didn't do the mindfulness of breathing, just the Metta Bhavana, just to pull myself out of this state. And this teaching might not work so well on other parts of the planet. My friend Chakupala took a holiday with friends to Kalimpong. And they went up in the jeep to Kalimpong. And he says his friends were moaning all the time. They got up there. He said all the locals were happy. They were all happy. All these peasants with no money were happy. All the tourists were miserable. Yeah? So maybe in Kalimpong you say, maybe they should do the mindfulness of breathing. Yeah? And we'll do the Metta Bhavana. So you get little local variations. Perhaps. Okay? Funny, Chakupali went to this stall to buy something, and this is in Kalimpong. He comes from England, yeah? Leigh-on-Sea, Essex. And he goes up to this stall in Kalimpong, and this trader looks at me and goes, "Friends of the Western Buddhist Order." And he was. And he sold in that amazing red cloth that you know. Yeah. But Kalimpong, so there we go. Ehi Pasiko. Ehi means come. So often in the Pali Canon, you hear the Buddha go, Ehi Bhikkhu, you know, come Bhikkhu, and you're in the order. Bang! It's as simple as that. But Ehi Pasiko, come and see. Yeah, Pasiko means to see, Ehi means to come. And so, so Bhante says traditionally the Dharma is sometimes called come and see Dharma, yes? And what he likes about it is don't take it on trust. Check it all out. Test it. Come, you know, try it. Taste it. You know, what do lemons taste like? Got to suck one, yeah? You know, you'll never know. Yeah? It's just not about blind belief. And it also implies you've got to go and do it. You've got to do the spiritual life, yeah? You could sit at home with a nice box of chocolates and a big pot of tea by the fire with a book on some Tibetan saint Milarepa and read it all evening, and it's great, yeah? But it's a bit like reading about swimming. You know, you could swim or you could read about it, you know, or read about running. I've read this really cool. I've seen films about running. But, you know, to actually do it is another thing. Do you remember that Chariots of Fire? Anyway, all right, I'm a bit old, yeah. So, but yes, you actually do the spiritual life. You do it. It's your spiritual life. It's your experiment. Yeah? Some things will work for you better than others. We'll come to that a little bit later as well. Opanayiko. Nayati from Opanayiko is to lead. Opanayiko is leading forward, leading onward. And Sangharakshana says it's sometimes translated as progressive, meaning it progresses. You know, the spiritual path is step by step. Okay, you've got... Somebody asked Sangharakshana once, this is not in the talk, about these Zen masters. You know, they're sort of getting on a bus and jing, enlightened. How did that happen? They were just getting on a bus. He said, yeah, but they've been meditating for the last 50 years before they got on the bus, you know? So it's, you know, it doesn't just, it's not just magic. It's not sort of instant enlightenment. It does not happen. The Buddha never said it did. You work for it. It's progressive. And it's step by step, stage by stage. The good thing is that it quite quickly becomes pleasant. Yeah? And when you look at the 12 positive nidanas, step 2's nice. You know, step 1's a bit rough. Step 2's lovely. And it just gets better and better and better. Rapture, bliss, you know, satisfaction. It goes nice. So it's progressive. And the other thing is, the second stage arises out of the first stage. You don't have to worry too much about what the next stage will be. Yeah, but what am I going to be doing in 5 years' time? Don't worry about that. You get on with your mindfulness of breathing now and your Metta Bhavana. Yeah? And sometimes, you know, the next step will become obvious. Yeah? Do you want examples, or is it can be a bit controversial? You go on a retreat. It's a great retreat, you know, and fantastic. You're meditating 7 days. Yeah, Metta Bhavana's mindfulness. Your knees hurt, but never mind. It's okay. Nice country. And then you come back off retreat and you think, I can't stand my job. I hate it. And you needed the retreat to find out you hate your job, you know, and you change it. So suddenly, because of your 7 days meditating, the next stage is obvious. Get a new job, yeah? Or you come off a retreat. Fabian's not here today. He's Lufthansa, and his thing was move into a men's community. And he's done it, you know. That was the next, it was obvious. So sometimes the next stage is just obvious, yeah? Well, according to this, it is, all right? So you perfect one stage and the next stage arises out of it. Don't worry too much about the future, yeah? And if you do have a good teacher or good spiritual friends, they'll help you find out what you should be doing now, you know? And they may say to you, you should be doing a metta bhavana. Then a year later they come along and say, mindfulness of breathing now. That's a good friend, yeah? Self-indulgence here. I went on a retreat in Ireland once, and this young man, he was about 21 years old, he hated the metta bhavana. He was absolutely Mr. Intellectual. He hated the metta bhavana. Every time we did the metta bhavana, he did the mindfulness of breathing. When we did the mindfulness, he did the mindfulness. So he just had days and days and days of mindfulness of breathing. What happened to him was he started seeing everything that was wrong with everybody, and it got worse and worse. And he started living in a hell realm, you know. And he was getting so bad. We asked to see him, how you doing? And we said, well, come and speak to the order. So there was Sangha, Pala, who's it? Doesn't matter. Myself and Mangala, Northern Irishman. We're there. We're in a good mood. So we said, what's going on? He said, well, I'm just doing the mindfulness. And he says, I'm seeing everything that's wrong with everybody. So I said, so how do I appear to you? He says, you look like a pig, you know. And we just thought this was fantastic. And the Sangha party goes, mate, you look like an idiot, you know. And we were just loving it. We thought it was fantastic. But sadly, he stuck with the mindfulness of breathing, and then suddenly in his car, and he was gone, you know. But a spiritual friend could have said, listen, my dear man, we think the metta bhavana might be more in order, yeah? Just develop a bit of love, yeah? So, that wasn't in the talk, that was just pure self-indulgence by Lalitaratna. Sorry about that, okay. And my teacher, he gave me loads of personal teaching, Sangha Actual, it seems like loads, yeah? I remember meeting him in our restaurant, he looked at me and went, workaholic. That's Sangha Actual, you know, advice to me, workaholic, you know. He told me to get more sleep, yeah? One day, I said, cheerio, Banty, take care. I was at Papaloka. Take care? He said, you take care. He said, he'd been quite angry with me. He said, I think a little less Ratna and a bit more Lalita. Well, my name is Lalitaratna. Lalita means play. Ratna is like the jewel. So jewels cut glass, they're hard, you know? So I was really developing the sharp element through all my work and energy and all that. But he said, I think a little less Ratna, the hard side, soften that, and a bit more play, yeah? So there's a good friend, yeah? Good. And I remember years ago, Croydon, my Buddhist centre all went wrong, and I went off to Ireland to recover. And when I met him again, it was lovely. He just said, just go back there to your house, just stay there, living alone. I was in Ireland for 3 years, living on my own. He said, just go back there and do what you're doing, a little meditation, little study, you know, keep doing it, until you're bored, he said, until you get bored, you know, then you'll do something. Anyway, I came to visit him about a year and a half later, and he just went, you look the picture of health to me, you know, go and do something. So that was the end of Ireland, yeah. So he wasn't shy of giving me advice, yeah. So, Pachatam Veditabo Venuhiti. Pachatam means personally, Veditabo to be known, Venuhiti by those who are wise, to be known by the, you know, and sometimes it's translated of the nature of a personal invitation. Sometimes the Dharma, it feels like they've, engraved your name on this bit of Dharma. It's so for you, it's shocking. You go, oh yeah, that's me, you know. I remember I said my Buddhist centre went wrong. We turned into a cult, well done. It took us 11 years to turn our Buddhist centre into a cult with a charismatic leader, and then it all exploded. And we were all ruined for years, you know. But I remember the night when it was all sort of sorted out, and a bunch of us went up on our bikes to London at midnight. And there was this tea bar on one of the bridges. And we all bought cups of tea, and we're sitting with our feet dangling over, 25 metres below is the River Thames. And we're sitting there in the dark night, looking at the black water and the black night, and with our cups of tea. And this sentence just came shooting up the River Thames. And I heard it, not with my ears, I heard it. And it just said, just as the ocean has one taste, the taste of salt, so my teaching has one taste, the taste of freedom. And I heard it. It's the only time it's happened in my life, really. I heard it. And it was like the opposite of everything we've been doing in our cult. We were not free. Yeah, we'd lost our freedom. And the test of the Dharma is it has the taste of freedom. Huh? Fantastic. Yeah. But it was great. I'm afraid to say quite often it has been in other crises that I've had quite powerful experiences, but it's not always in these. You can have good experiences not in crises too. I just say that, yeah. But don't worry about having a really bad time sometimes or getting overtired sometimes. Sometimes. You can't do it all the time. You can get insights, yeah. And just to cheer you, if your boyfriend or girlfriend dumps you, yeah, Sangha actually says that is the time for insight. That's when you learn. Not when you've just met Mr. Right or Miss Right, and you're all stupid. Oh, this is lovely, this is fantastic, I'm so happy. No, you're stupid then. It's at the other end when it's all over, that's when you learn, yeah? And you realise how daft you've been. Fantastic. So there we go. So these experiences can come. And it's great if you've got some mindfulness and metta. If you've done your meditation, it's a bit like Kranken Versicherung. It's like paying into health insurance, yeah? And you pay in for some years, then a crisis comes and you cash in. It's really helpful, yeah? It's great. Yeah? So there we go. You get people coming up to you, I've just been dumped, should I meditate? You look at the thing, don't start now, And I usually say, why don't you try swimming, yeah, or running, and just keep talking, but not meditation, not now, You need to pay into your account a few times first. Yeah. You sit to meditate and there's your woman sitting there. Anyway, all right, great. So, all right. Yeah. All right, I'm going to move on a little bit. So the structure of this text, I said earlier, each part, it starts off just rejoicing in the nature of the Buddha, in the second part of the Dharma, in the third part of the Sangha. And then there's this resolution to go for refuge, to actually go to the Buddha, to practice the teaching, yeah? And it is an emotional text. It's not science, it's not an argument about the Buddha's qualities, it's nothing like that. It's just an emotional statement of what you already know, You've heard the Buddha's a great teacher, you say it, And it is similar to when, one day you're so keen on your boyfriend or girlfriend, you say, I love you, I love you, I love you, yeah? You've got beautiful eyes, yeah? And that's it. You don't have to argue the case. You'll ruin it if you try and give all the reason I love you is blah, 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 blah. And you make me tea in the morning, Don't ruin it. Just say, I love you. And that's what this text is. It's just a sort of declaration of positive emotion, yeah? Great. First thing in the morning. Yeah. Great. Yes. Enough there. Okay, I'm going to skip on a little bit. So the last half of the text, I'm not going to go into it anymore because we did it last week, really. And I'll just read it out. What it says is, the English, all my life I go for refuge to the truth. To all the truth teachings of the past, to all the truth teachings yet to be, to all the truth teachings that now are, my worship flows unceasingly. No other refuge than the truth. Refuge supreme is there for me. Oh, by the virtue of this truth, may grace abound and victory. So I will take the Dharma as the safe place to go. And I went into what a refuge was last week. I won't repeat. Yeah, good. I mean, something that does come up. Does the Dharma work? Does it actually work? That's a good question, isn't it? Yeah. And I remember being in Essen, Germany, about 10 years ago. Ari Bandi's not here. He was translating for Sangha, actually. It was all the men gathered. And somebody said to Bandi, does it work? Does the Dharma work? And Bhante went, And I was sitting next to him. He said, well, he said, look at Lalitaratna here. He's really become quite mindful over the years. I thought, what's he talking about? You know, I don't feel it. But anyway, he said that. But later on, I did think back that when I was first ordained, which is more than 40 years ago, I was 26 years old. We'd hired this old sort of like stately home, which had been converted to a school, and we'd hired it for a Buddhist convention. And I'd been ordained a few months. I was so happy. And I remember, 26 years old, flying down this enormous staircase, so wide, into the main hall. You know, these big wide staircases of stately homes. And I'm flying down 2 at a time. You know, like I've got wings. And as I get to the bottom, Sangharakshita steps out of a side room. I just miss him. By nothing, you know. And later that night, there was an announcement at tea time by Sangha about mindfulness. There needs to be more mindfulness on the occasion. So maybe Sangharakshita was thinking of that. Maybe Lalitaratna has improved a little. No, he just got old. It's all right. Good. So, and by the way, after he told that story, he then quietly, telling everybody I've become more mindful, he quietly turned to it. He said, now don't let me down. So there we go. So my picture these days I do have this sort of sense that we are sort of on a rising hill towards enlightenment. Yeah, I get this picture of a hill with a peak in the middle with enlightenment, and this is the sort of model inside me now. Just I feel this after years and years and years. You can progress uphill. It's not bad. It's pleasant. It's a good journey. But what's interesting is why I mention this is you then look around at your friends and their lives are going in circles at the bottom, you know. They go a little bit forward then a little bit back, you know. And of course all of my friends now, they're all doing the grandparent thing, you know. And you go and meet them, they tell you all about their grandchildren and how talented they are, and they'll show you all the photos, you know, they go on and on about grandchildren. Fantastic. Great, that's my world if I go home, you know. But it's interesting, you just see the circles that people are in. And we ourselves, we will go forward and backwards, but I do get this sense now of this progression. And actually anything that's sort of moving up, moving on, is doing well. You know, anything. You'll hear a gardener say, well, you know, that plant, there was too much shade, so I've dug it up, I've put it by this wall, I've changed the soil, and now it's a really happy plant. And they'll say that, it's a really happy plant. You know, a farmer will say, yeah, I have happy pigs, you know, he looks after them well. So anything, you know, when you're going forward, when you're progressing, it's happy, you know. And for many of us, the next bit is, the next stage is the evolution of our consciousness, yeah? Developing ourselves, you know. Everything's great. Legs, arms, head, language, culture, brilliant. That's all, we got all that. That came with the package, you know. But the next bit of evolving, developing our consciousness, reflexive consciousness, yeah? Becoming more aware of ourselves, self-knowledge. Ooh, spooky, spooky, spooky. Yeah. Know thyself. Who was that? Socrates or somebody? Can't remember. Was it? I think so. I think it might have been know thyself. Yeah. Great. Lovely stuff. So that's where we're sort of going. Yeah? All right. So, We have different phases in our life. You might be thinking, how can I get the perfect spiritual life for me? You know, I need to study the Dharma, I need to study the books, I need to meditate, I've got to earn some money. How do I get the perfect lifestyle? You know, don't worry about it. You're going to have phases in your life. And maybe there'll be a phase later in your life when you're studying more. Yeah? I think when you're young, you really need to do energetic things. Yeah? Very good. Work in a restaurant, for heaven's sake, you know. That'll keep you fit, yeah. I remember, you know, we had various right livelihood projects, and I really liked the building business. And you got fit, and you needed it. And Sangha actually used to say to us, look, young men need work. It must be true of young women too, you know. But he said it to us. And it gives you somewhere to go, a sense of purpose, yeah? We're not that subtle yet. Young men don't really know their feelings yet. Most of them don't, yeah? That will come. But, and so maybe a more meditative lifestyle comes later, with more devotion comes later. I don't know. But don't worry about having to get it all right now. I just remember having that thought, and it was torture for me, yeah? We do it in bits. We can have phases, yeah? Yeah. And I'm really loving this bit. I really, you know, this is great for me. Yeah, teaching you guys is just a dream. I should pay, I told you, you know. My poor mum, when she became a teacher, she said, and they give me money. Because she loved teaching so much. She had 6 kids and then went to college, you know. And she just loved teaching, you know. So there we go. But yeah, this is the sort of phase I'm in now, yeah? And yeah, I just mentioned this, you know, you could be sort of training yourself. We're still not too old here, I am, but when you get to 40, that's when you should really be engaging in your life project now. You've got your world experience, you've got loads of it, and you're still energetic. Fantastic. Your 40s should be great, really doing something. 50s, foot off the gas. You know, quite well, you know. Now I can take it a bit easier. Nobody will let you take it easier because you've got some experience. But, you know, that's how it is, yeah. But phases, I remember, this is quite sad, this one. Sangharakshana, I was there in the room when he told us about one of his phases. He said, I asked the movement to build a retreat centre where I could teach visualization practices. That's visualizing various Buddha figures, you know, green Tara or golden Manjughosha, these figures, yeah? All the order members take on a practice like this, apart from the mindfulness of breathing and the metta bhavana and a few others. He said, but by the time they finished the building, that phase of my life was over, so we missed it. That's it, tough. Yeah, we missed it. And it was interesting that even Sangharakshana, as developed as he was, you know, has phases, yeah? And quite interesting. I mean, it's not all bad. We've met him individually and asked for tips about visualization practice, and occasionally he has led one, yeah? He did one a few years ago on the Tara visualization before he died, yeah? So, okay. So we have all these phases. Oh, but one thing, whatever phase you're in, keep meditating. Don't ever give it up. Sorry. It's just my own. It's not prejudice. I've just seen that. Was it Darwin? It was, sorry, bad memory here. Forgive me if I got the name wrong. I think Darwin promised himself that when he retired, he would read Shakespeare. Yeah? I mean, his contribution to the world is fantastic. He retired, he opened up Shakespeare, didn't work. It was dead. All the pages were dead. You know, you need to keep something alive. And your meditation practice will keep something alive in you the whole way through. It's like, can you remember those boilers in the bathroom? They used to kill everybody with carbon monoxide. But they had a little blue light in them. Have you seen those? They're little blue gas light. Yeah, some of you know them. Well, sometimes your practice is just a little blue gas light. Fantastic. Keep that gas light on. And then your life changes and boom, You know, you're meditating again. But don't give up your practice. There's never a reason to give up your practice, you know. When I was a teacher, I used to meditate in the stock cupboard, for heaven's sake, with bottles of hydrochloric acid and everything, you know, and clocks and there, yeah. I used to do it in there, yeah. I've even meditated in a pub toilet once, because it was the only place I could get, yeah. But don't miss it, yeah. So, and these, and lastly on phases, and sometimes the phase you're in might be quite, you know, your friends might be critical of you. So I wouldn't give up teaching. I moved into the community, and I had my kids, and teaching was a hell of a tough job, but it was also glorious. I had these 12-year-olds and 10-year-olds. And two things. I felt I needed to give the government back some. They paid for my education. They did in those days, you know. And I wanted to give something back. So I stayed in to sort of pay back the debt. But also I wanted to get on top of teaching, yeah. And so people said, no, you should be doing other things, you know. But I never regretted it. Never, ever regretted it. And then when I came to Germany, with all this teaching experience, not that much, but it was enough. I got on top of teaching. I got loads of teaching work. It was so easy. It was fantastic. So it really paid off. You know, it kept me in Germany for 10 years, yeah? Supported me. Yeah, so you never know, all right? All right, so what is the Dharma? We're almost there, and now I've almost run out of notes, yes? I got tired last night. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I just stopped. I thought, can't write anymore. So I just put a few notes down here. And I thought, what is the Dharma? Well, or what is Buddhism, you know? Just have a little sip, yeah? Well, Buddhism, what a funny word. It's obviously an English word, yeah? Buddhism, atheism, communism, yeah? Capitalism. It's an ism, so it's not, obviously it's not Indian, yeah? And the word that the Buddha had for his teaching was the Dhammavindaya, all right? That's what he called it. This is worth remembering. If you listen to the lecture again, the talk is not a lecture. Dhammavindaya is a great word to learn, yeah? Dhamma is the truth, and Vinaya are the practices, yeah? And those two together. So the Dharma breaks into these two halves, yeah? The truths, everything's impermanent, you know? You can't cure hate with hate, these truths, yeah? And then the Vinaya are the practices with which you develop and realize these truths. So that last sentence of the Buddha, everything that is composite will come apart, will disintegrate. That's the truth. It's true, you know. They say, I said this before, they say diamonds are forever. They're not. I think you can burn a diamond at about 800 degrees centigrade on a school Bunsen burner. Yeah, you can, you know. Nothing's permanent, right? So, if you knew that, if you really, really knew that everything was impermanent, you wouldn't be so worried about building up this great pot for your pension or something like that, or building this, what did they call it, you know, some happy retirement home. You know, old age is a bit crap whatever you do. I'm sorry, you know. Well, that's not too disappointing. But you ache, you smell, you know, and it's hard to get upstairs. Yeah, it's hard to get up. I'm in a bloody chair, you know. So you see that everything, you don't put energy into false things. That's the advantage of seeing that everything's impermanent. But how do you see that everything's impermanent? And the Buddha said, with mindfulness, strive. So with mindfulness, strive, it's an activity. It's an activity, it's an action. It's a practice. So you do this, I'm very mindful, I'm making an effort. Oh, look, everything's impermanent. And then you see the truth. Yeah? So that's how they go as this pair. Dhamma, Vinaya. Good. All right. So you've got all various teachings. I mean, what can you say also? I'm just going to throw this in. It's a bit ad hoc. You know, the spiritual life can seem so complicated. Maybe I should go to the Kalamas, I will in a minute. But really, essentially, it's not that complicated. You know, in our own selves, there will be degrees of self-centeredness, of selfishness. Let's use an ordinary word, selfishness. Yeah, horrible. And our efforts are to try and deal with that, to try and become more generous. If we only did that, we would be on the spiritual path. Yeah? That's very simple. To become more generous than you were, you've made spiritual progress. Ta-da! Also, the more sort of ethical you become in this sense, the more sort of, I mean, my Uncle Terry, he was the most generous uncle we knew. We all adored him. We loved him. You know, he'd come and stay, and the word would go out, and they're like, Uncle Terry's here, Uncle Terry's here. Now, the poor devil had been up talking to my parents to all hours, and we look around his bedroom door. He's in this little narrow bed. Uncle Terry, can we come in? So, you know, he always said yes. So I would slip into one side of his little bed. My brother Tim would slip into the other side. Then Catherine and Mary would hear, and they both climb in the bottom of the bed. And poor Uncle Terry's in this bed with 4 kids in bed with him, you know, 2 at the bottom, 2 at the top. We just wanted to be in his aura, yeah? And when he heard he had bladder cancer and had 4 weeks to live, he just went. He was so generous he could let go. It was not a problem. He also let go of Christianity before he went, so he didn't have a God waiting for him, but he just went. He was, and this is one of the fruits of this having developed your generosity. So I'm saying that in some ways you can think, oh, the spiritual path, what is it? In some ways it's not very complicated, all right? So what's quite, now, the poor old Kalamas, the Buddha one day, I've got this huge blinking text here, I can't read it, it's 4 pages at close time. So I'm just going to pick out a few bits. But one day the Buddha is travelling. He arrived at Kesaputta, a town of the Kalamas. And the poor old Kalamas, this people, yeah? They've had all sorts of visiting gurus. This is India 2,500 years ago. Thick with gurus and holy men and all the rest. All with the same gear. Begging bowl, shaven head, yellow cloth. You know, they're not Buddhists. They're just, that's the uniform, yeah? Today it would be Oxfam or something like that. I don't know, you know. But they have this sort of uniform. And they come along, and what does they say? These contemplatives, these Brahmins, and they glorify their own doctrines and deprecate the doctrines of others. They revile them and show contempt for them. So in come all the latest bunch of holy men. They all say, we've got the truth, we've got the way, and what you've heard before is rubbish. And then they go. Then in comes another lot, and they'll go, oh, what the last lot said is rubbish, we've got the truth. And the poor old Kalamas are hearing this all the time, yeah? Then our Buddha, Shakyamuni, he arrives, and they tell him, they say, what do we believe, yeah? And they said, we just got doubt, you know. And the Buddha says, of course you're in doubt, you know. And there's good reasons for your doubt, he says, all right? Then, and I just say, he says, now listen, these recluses, these Brahmins, these, you know, they'll come and they'll tell you about their authority. You know, I've been practicing for 50 years. You know, my teacher was so-and-so, my teacher was this, you know. My reputation in this town is such. They'll tell you all this, yeah? And you'll go, oh my goodness, they must be amazing, all right? And the Buddha says, don't go by reports, Kalamas. Don't go by legends. Don't go by traditions or by scripture. Don't go by logical conjecture, by inference, by analogies, by agreement through pondering views, by probability or by thought. This contemplative is our teacher. He says, listen, he says, so they're giving you all the stuff, all the spiel, yeah? How important they are and how great their teachings are. He says, drop the lot. In fact, in another text, the Buddha says, don't believe me. Don't believe the Buddha. He said, you test what I said against your own experience. Yeah? He says, you test my words as the goldsmith tests gold with fire. just as the goldsmith sort of heats up the metal and sees how much gold that's in it, you test what you've heard from me against your experience. This is grown-up stuff. You know, the responsibility lands right in our lap. It's up to us, yeah? And he says, when you've heard all these teachings from these people, and you think, and you look, and you think, these qualities, they're not skillful. They're blameworthy. When carried out, they lead to harm, to suffering. He says, just abandon them. Yeah? And he goes into great detail, which I won't, yeah? But he says, when you come across imagine this monk comes in, and while he's sitting there, he eats all the gulab jams while he's giving you all these teachings. And at the end, you look at the gulab jam bowl, it's empty. You think, what was that? There were 27 gulab jams there, and there's none left, All right, great. So, that does happen, sorry. So, he said, when you see a greedy person, mind possessed by greed, or somebody who kills, or somebody who takes what's not given, or goes after another person's wife, tells lies, and induces others to do likewise, yeah? He says, is this good or bad? And does it lead to goodness or harm? And the poor old Calamus, they go, to harm, Lord. He goes, yes. And then he goes through hatred, yeah? And then he goes through delusion. And basically he shows the Calamus, you actually know through common sense what is a good teaching and what is not. It's not that clever. Sadly, common sense, Oscar Wilde referred to it as that rarest of qualities. Common sense. In one of his plays, his butler had common sense. He says, yes, common sense, that rarest of qualities. But to just apply common sense to this, and Sangharakshita, when he was he was enlisted in the army in India, and he took up a meditation practice like the mindfulness of breathing, and he found at night, after he'd done the practice, he was being woken up and sort of smashed up and down and smashed to the sides and this, the other, and he was trying to do this practice again and again, this mindfulness practice, probably a pranayama one that's at the back of every yoga book. There's a pranayama practice. I did it myself badly, yeah, but it smashes you to hell, yeah. And he just said to himself, does this lead to calm? Does this lead to, dispassion? Does it lead to happiness? No. So he stopped. And Sangharakshita is a rare being to actually have common sense. And later on, a Hindu guru gave him our mindfulness of breathing, and it was wonderful. He said it became the centre of his practice. Yeah. So, but just that common sense, yeah, to apply that. So, and then I've stopped there, but he goes through a list of all the good things that come about. So I'm going to talk too long if I'm not careful. And there's another text where, I won't go through it now, but another lot say to the Buddha, we've got all these different teachings. What is the truth? What is the truth? And all the Brahmins are all arguing with each other. And he said, and it's he says, it reminds him of the parable of, is it the 6 blind men and the elephant? Or the 7 blind men? I can't remember. Yeah. And just a minute. And I can't remember the number. It's not important, right? But this king, he takes these blind men to the elephant one at a time. And one of them, he sort of squeezes its trunk. He says, so tell me, what is the nature of the elephant? And he says, well, it's like a plough. It's quite hard. It's quite long. It's like a plough. Another one holds the body. He says it's like a granary. It's something you store grain in. Another one, he's got the tuft of dirt. He says it's like a little brush, A leg, he says it's like a tree. And they're all, one's got the tail. It's like a snake. They've all got different versions. And the Buddha's just sort of laughing about this story, how all these people are getting the wrong aspect of it. They haven't got the bigger picture, So there we go. All right. Dare I? Can we have a joke? It's time for a joke, isn't it? So we've all heard about the 6 blind men and the elephant, yeah? Have you heard about the 6 blind elephants and the man? The 6 blind elephants and the man? Well, the elephants were asked afterwards what he was like, And they all had various different opinions, but they all agreed on one thing: he was flat. Sorry. I really like that jacket. They all trod on him, yeah, great, good. So, all right, so there we go. Oh, yeah, the calamars, great. Yeah, test the teaching. So now, what do we have in life? So we need a little sort of, what do you call it, Swiss Army knife of the Dharma for our own practice. How do we check it all out? And I don't know where this comes from. I think Sangharakshara said it, and it's lovely. He said we have three things in life, yeah? We have our own experience, we have the experience of the enlightened ones, which we can read about, yeah? And we have reason. And our job is to bring these three together. Here's what the Buddha said, here's my experience, does it work? Does it work? So early monks, they didn't eat after 12 o'clock. Does that work for me? No. Sometimes I get up at 12, sorry, but you know, I'm working all night sometimes, yeah? You know, so, but, you know, these three things, the experience of the enlightened, your own experience, and reason. Yeah? And you can use that as almost like a checklist for your spiritual life. Yeah? Read the Dharma, does it work? I mean, and I'm going to be controversial here. I really used to like reading. I didn't read the Old Testament much. It was too bloody. I mean, it's shockingly bloody. You wouldn't believe it, you know. The massacres that go on. I remember coming across 5 massacres in 2 pages or something, you know. But the New Testament, I really did. I used to read it, I used to like it, because I didn't have Buddhism, yeah? But there, you have good old Christ saying, love your neighbour as yourself. And then when he finds the money changers in the temples selling animals and things, he takes his rope off, he knots it into a nice little weapon, and he whips the hell out of them, yeah? Kicks their table over and drives them all out of it. So there's a little bit of a contradiction in the teaching there. Anyway, all right, say no more, a bit controversial, yeah? But this is what we're sort of looking for, you know, just applying our reason to the teachings, yes? Good. That pops up, that comes up in all 4 Gospels, by the way, I found out, but it's best in John. All right, so test the teaching with the teaching. So the practices we have, and we're coming to the end here now, the practices we have, what do we have? We have meditation, we have study, we have devotion, and then there's action. So what's action? That's the weirdest of them all. Well, I think if you're a real physical type, you imagine this, you love running, you're into your body, exercise, yo. Well, yoga sounds good to me, yeah? That could be like part of your path, you know, yoga could be your thing. Or what we did a lot of was right livelihood businesses. I mean, a waiter, God, that's like a marathon run, doing in our restaurant, yeah? I'm getting nodding heads at the back. We used to have waiters with cramp at night. We had a standard treatment for a fainting waiter. It's that hard, yeah? So, and then your money goes to the Dharma. That was the important bit. If the money just goes to your pocket, it's not much of a practice, you know. But if your money goes to the Dharma, then you really have got a spiritual practice there. You're doing ethical work. It's physical. And I can't help feeling, I needed that as a young man. Just speak about myself. You know, helped me get through. I used to have to get out. I had to get out of depression when I was young. And work helped me do it. That and Metabhavana. Yeah? Good. Meditation, just always do it. You know, but you may really be into meditating. Oh, you lucky person. How wonderful for you, you know? And, but these are like different lifestyles, aren't they? So, and what's the one? Which one do we pick? We'll pick your favourite. That's the beauty about Buddhism. I'm not one for study, I might say. Actually, I like study. But I might say, you know, I can't do with all this study, so I'm your meditator. Good. That's your doorway into the spiritual life. Through meditation. Another one, I can't concentrate. I prefer devotion. Yeah? I like to offer incense to the shrine. I like to clean the shrine, you know, buy flowers for it. We've got a thing called pujas. I like to do these big ceremonies of devotion, yeah? That is a really legitimate practice. So maybe your way is in through devotion. Great, it works. It works. You've found another doorway into the spiritual life. Good, nice, isn't it? Yeah. Maybe you're really smart. Study. Through study. I mean, when I've studied on solitary retreats, I know it's really weird, but I end up swearing. Some of the insights hit me so hard that I'm walking around, I won't say it, but I'm walking around the room going, it's too much. That these insights are coming from the book and are just stunning me, So study could be your thing, yeah? And there we all are. And so you actually get different schools of Buddhism which match these sort of four. And we're pretty good, we were good on right livelihood, it's sort of disappeared a lot now. But, and study we're pretty good, and meditation pretty good, but our devotion is a bit thin, I think, when you look at the Japanese with their Amitabha sort of cults and things like that. So there we are. And also phases. You could have different phases of your life. So maybe towards the end of your days, it's meditation and study. And maybe at the end, you're doing a delivery service for the Dharma or something like that. I think that's most of it, really. Yeah. Praise of the Dharma. I think that's enough. Thank you very much for coming, for being so attentive. Lovely. Good.